how Isuro the rabbit tricked Gudu. My Shona story. Far away, in a hot country where the forests were very thick and dark and the rivers very swift and strong, there once lived a strange pair of friends. Now one of the friends was a big white rabbit named Isuro, and the other was a tall baboon called Guddu, and so fond were they of each other that they were seldom seen apart. One day, when the sun was hotter even than usual, a rabbit awoke from his midday sleep and saw Gudu the baboon standing beside him. "Get up," said Gudu. "I am going courting, and you must come with me. So put some food in a bag and sling it round your neck, for we may not be able to find anything to eat for a long while." Then the rabbit rubbed his eyes and gathered a store of fresh green things from under the bushes and told Gudu that he was ready for the journey. So they went on quite happily for some distance, and at last they came to a river with rocks scattered here and there across the stream. "We can never jump those wide spaces if you are burdened with food," said Gudu. "You must throw it into the river unless we wish to ford in ourselves." And stooping down, unseen by Isuro, who was in front of him, Gudu picked up a big stone and threw it into the water with a loud splash. "It is your turn now," he cried to Isuro, and with a heavy sigh the rabbit unfastened his bag of food, which fell into the river. Quaskok zeroed.
En dat gøde. People Appel.
"Where did you get that from?" asked Isuro enviously. "Oh, I found after all that I could get across the rocks quite easily, so it seemed a pity not to keep my bag," answered the Guru. "Well, as you tricked me into throwing away mine, you ought to let me share with you," said Isuro. But Gudu pretended not to hear him and strode along the path. By and by, they entered a wood, and right in front of them was a tree so laden with fruit that its branches swept the ground, and some of the fruits were still green and some yellow. The rabbit hopped forward with joy, for he was very hungry. But Gudu said to him, "Pluck the green fruit, you will find it much the best. I will leave it all for you, as you have had no dinner. I'll take the yellow for myself." So the rabbit took one of the green oranges and began to bite it. But its skin was so hard that he could hardly get his teeth through the rind. "Bosh! It does not taste at all nice," he cried, screwing up his face. "I would rather have one of the yellow ones." No, I really could not allow that," answered Gudu. "They would only make you ill. Be content with a green fruit." And as they were all he could get, Isuro was forced to put up with them. "Nagapanere nodi ano tin kotono." But Isuro the rabbit would have liked to ask him why he ate food that he knew would burn him, only he was afraid, and just nodded in reply. But when they had gone on a little further, he said to Gudu, "I have dropped my needle. Wait here a moment while I go and fetch it." "Be quick then," answered Gudu, climbing into a tree, and the rabbit hastened back to the bushes and gathered a quantity of the leaves, which he hid among his fur. "For," thought he, "if I get them now, I shall save myself the trouble of a walk by and by." When he had plucked as many as he wanted, he returned to Gudu, and they went on together. Hidok lipiki amajoindu. The sun was almost setting by the time they reached their journey's end, and being very tired, they gladly sat down by a well. Then Gudu's betrothed who had been watching for him, brought out a pitcher of water, which he poured over them to wash off the dust of the road, and 2 portions of food. But once again, the rabbit's hopes were dashed to the ground, for Guddu said hastily, "The custom of the village forbids you to eat till I have finished." And Isuro did not know that Gudu was lying and that he only wanted more food. So he saw hungrily looking on, waiting till his friend had had enough. Dai kunnamu eloi kulli madoi kulle eloi kulliku. ఇప్పుడు చూసలే గుదు వాడుకున్నా అదాద నెరలు దిల్లుంట అలాల అదేదా ఇల్లినరు అడవ కూరంట దో గుడు అర్మి యాదికున్నతో నేదో జింతరుగుడు స్వనతర్ని ఒకరిని. "How unlucky you are," said Gudum, snatching the leaves. No sooner had you gone than ever so many people arrived and washed their hands as you see and ate your portion. But though Isuro knew better than to believe him, he said nothing and went to bed hungrier than he had ever been in his life. Early next morning, they started for another village and passed on the way a large garden where people were very busy gathering monkey nuts. "You can have a good breakfast at last," said Guddu, pointing to a heap of empty shells, never doubting but that Isuro would meekly take the portion shown him and leave a real nuts for himself. But what was his surprise when Isuro answered, "Thank you, I think I should prefer these," and turning to the kernels, never stopped as long as there was one left. And the worst of it was that with so many people about, Guddu could not take the nuts from him. It was night when they reached the village where dwelt the mother of Guddu's betrothed, who laid meat and millet porridge before them. "I think you told me you are fond of porridge," said Guddu. But Isuro answered, "You are mistaking me for somebody else, as I always eat meat when I can get it." And again Guddu was forced to be content with the porridge, which he hated to squat. While he was eating it, however, a sudden thought darted into his mind, and he managed to knock over a great pot of water which was hanging in front of the fire and put it quite out. "Now," said the cunning creature to himself, "I shall be able in the dark to steal his meat." The rabbit had grown as cunning as he, and standing in a corner hid the meat behind him, so that baboon could not find it. "Oh, Guddu," he cried, laughing aloud, "it is you who have taught me to be clever." And calling to the people of the house, he bade them kindle the fire, for Guddu would sleep by it, but that he would pass the night with some friends in another hut. "Tuakuno dok mabani, na waneski mau kuma kuwe mainovu, na wafarautoa kwa watumao wa kuwe makrio, ata umbuze kini tubawa huzua, akwa nanungua, pawina kambe reitango hudatago katuma wa kuotua Guddu. Wanda katsuana karjan yu gutek tia dendienne. Tauma tawarino lagumo ini kuabje kudunitista era achisuers. Nej dotin jogot no share se kipteli mes doksi chu yang ro eu bio erunyon tro bio gen tap guruga miru mitre ko em un kolo chkushun chischal derta matrara enai. Marl merar duna chmishturna jona nistarn jagitti wachnih chamanizla krinair. Mestra ev me palndachok si surmagamu. Vaye yadukwatra abu chaga navaibotninki ye dusi ekot dum. "How tiresome," muttered Guddu, as he went back to his place, and after waiting a little longer, he got up and peeped again. But still the rabbit's pink eyes stared wildly. If Guddu had only known, Isuro was asleep all the time. But this he never guessed, and by and by he grew so tired with watching that he went to sleep himself. Soon after, Isuro woke up, and he too felt hungry. So he crept softly to the pot and ate all the meat, while he tied the bones together and hung them in Gudu's fur. After that, he went back to the wood pile and slept again.
Or manishoin mali gudu ai hin ya distien so tab dab basil kodlong e gradi kar chuvi hakirti kya si with dinode paidam unku kharana जिस्त्रिंस्tan frikjöri rigo itte ka bi gradiam beje ma hoji ye disvinak pas hek debi ma hol pas kriti hin chara arab ko sharub bi juste gira hoti en sago paradeno bista.
Those are thieves. And at the sound of his voice, the big Guru trembled all over.
How dare you say such things? I defy you to prove it, answered Isuro boldly. And he danced forward and turned head over heels and shook himself before them all.
I spoke hastily. You are innocent, said the old man. But now let the baboon do likewise. And when Guddu began to jump, the god's bones rattled and the people cried, "It is Guddu who is the goat slayer." But Guddu answered,
Nay, I did not kill your goat. It was Isuro, and he ate the meat and hung the bones round my neck. So it is he who should die. And the people looked at each other, for they knew not what to believe. At length one man said,
"Let them both die, but they may choose their own deaths." Then Isuro answered, "If we must die, put us in the place where the wood is cut, and heap it up all round us, so that we cannot escape, and set fire to the wood. And if one is burned and the other is not, then he that is burned is the goat slayer."
and the people did as Isuro had said. But Isuro knew a hole under the wood pile, and when the fire was kindled, he ran into the hole, but Guddu died there. Nakala.
When the fire had burned itself out and only ashes were left where the wood had been, Isuro came out of his hole and said to the people, "Lo, did I not speak well? He who killed your goat is among those ashes, Yantosa Mengla."